you ready to branch out, to take a leap of faith, to love yourself and others fully? Then let go of whatever no longer serves you to take action now on Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills, living it up, loving it up, and letting it go. Erica will energize and excite you to power up your passionate dream that sets your soul on fire. With Erica's E3 approach, equipping, empowering, and enlightening yourself so you can be yourself for yourself. Get ready and get rooted to live a life without regrets, without what ifs, without should haves, and especially without empty feelings from a life unexplored. This hit show helps you build powerful and intentional roots to live it up, love it up, and let it go. Get fearlessly ready and powerfully rooted in your yes with your host, Erica Gifford Mills, and be fearless about your more and stand in your yes. Now on Get Rooted Radio.
Welcome, everyone. I am Erica Gifford Mills, and you are listening to Get Rooted Radio, living it up, loving it up, letting it go, right here on Transformation Talk Radio. A big shout out to my producer today, Lydia. Lydia, how you doing? I know. I actually was all concerned yesterday. I'm out raking, and all of a sudden it got dark, and I went, oh, I'm supposed to be someplace. I'm late. And then I realized, oh no, it just gets dark an hour earlier now. And I wasn't even thinking about it. I'm like, I didn't think I was out here this long. It's like when you're an adult and you take a nap, and you take such a great nap that you wake up and you're like, did I miss the bus? Wait, no, I didn't miss the bus. I'm 50 years old and I haven't ridden the bus, you know? Yes, exactly. Well, today's episode I'm really excited about, and hopefully I didn't give too much of a misrepresentation to listeners, but today's episode is titled Living Sugar Free, but it is so much more than that. We're talking wellness, intersectionality, social change, and everything in between, and we have a lot to say. But first, I want to talk about my guest a little bit, because she is an amazing woman. Andréa Raquel was born abroad to military parents. She was raised in church and taught work ethic, community service, and being the change. She joined the Army after attending Spelman College and became the first female voice of the 3rd US Infantry in Fort Myer, Virginia. Thank you so much for your service. Then when she went on to start a nonprofit community of social entrepreneurs and became a global influencer. In that time, she has spoken on countless stages at military events, conferences, training events, classrooms, churches, and hosts an online talk show serving thousands. You may know her as Sugar-Free Coach or the Social Entrepreneur. Andréa Raquel is a published author, thought leader, licensed minister, doctoral learner, and mentor for business leaders, military women, veterans, and coaches. She specializes in business and leadership development, and her organization has inspired visionaries and entrepreneurs to build better teams, implement choice architecture, and live their passions through service and helping others, while empowering them to stay connected and have healthy communications with their families and teams. After many lessons and celebrated milestones, Andréa traded coaching capitalism for wellness and spiritual healing. She still enjoys developing leaders and teams, but mostly you'll find Andréa spending time in meditation or with her soulmate, family, and close friends, listening to her favorite playlists, crafting with yarn, practicing calligraphy, or some outdoor adventure. Currently, she is residing in Southern California and enjoying 365 days of summer, which I am very jealous at, since it is 45 degrees here right now in Wisconsin. So thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to have you on the phone, or have you on the show. And I cannot wait to have our audience hear our conversation today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here.
So let's kick off the show with wellness. So what is living sugar-free?
So it is ironically, not really a diet. It's a lifestyle. And for me, my journey has led me towards not eating sugar, not eating added sugar. And I am by no means a fanatic about it. And that's a long story. We can get into it. But I want to say right up front before anybody tunes out, that might not be the best journey for you. Everyone has different, needs, different circumstances. Some people have different illnesses. Some people just do not have the luxury of, doing what I did. And, you'll starve to death if you try to do everything, at once. You can't like be a vegetarian and be sugar-free and eat paleo and, gluten-free and, you won't have much left to eat. So really, the reason I say it's not a diet, it's a lifestyle is because I really want to encourage people to find their own best solutions and what works for them. And you really have to dig deep. It doesn't hurt to know a little bit about, blood type. It doesn't hurt a little bit to know a little bit about, allergies, even if you're not a person who regularly has allergies, or so you think. You don't necessarily know that this other thing that's going on with you is not an allergic reaction. So it doesn't hurt to be an expert about a little bit of everything when it comes to you, and be your own pharmacist and be your own doctor and be your own, advisor when it comes to everything, because you really can't go wrong when you do that. And then, right, when we do speak with professionals, or people who are experts in certain areas, we can ask informed, educated questions. We can push back when people say things that don't resonate with us, and really apply whatever it is to your unique situation. That's really holistically living well from my perspective.
And I think that you make a really important distinction, is that the way you did it, right? And like you said, the way you did it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work for everybody, but you say you aren't cutting out all sugars. You're not adding sugar.
Right. Well, sugar is it's almost in everything, really. I mean, even vegetables, right? Because people are like, what do you eat? I eat meat and vegetables. Well, vegetables have sugar in them too. Okay. Everything, fruit, of course. But that's huge, that added sugar piece. And then what type of added sugars? Are we talking about high fructose corn syrup, or are we talking about honey,
Right.
So really staying away from the bleached white sugars was huge for me. All bleached white stuff, actually, because whether it's pasta or flour, it's still, going to be sugar, even if it's not sweetener. But see, I did something extreme. I did a 6-month cold turkey thing where after you do that, it doesn't affect you as much. So here and there, I might, do something in moderation that I wouldn't normally do. On my birthday, I might have a piece of cake, but it really made a difference for me to do that cold turkey 6-month thing to kill off the candida that I was dealing with, So you really have to go on your own journey and chart a smart course for yourself, because you can get leg cramps and faint and have all kinds of issues when you start shifting your diet around. So you really have to be strategic and take good care of yourself.
And I think it's interesting because as you said, it's not a diet, and I think that's what a lot of people think. In a lot of different eating styles, they're not diets if you're doing them in a way that it's part of your life, right? If you think vegetarians or pescatarians, or you've got your folks who are more the paleo, and it's not, you're not going on a diet.
Diets don't work, first of all.
You're eating healthy for you. And that might come in a variety of different forms. And that's where I think understanding your, micro and macros and all that kind of stuff on how much protein do you need, because how much protein you need versus how somebody else is going to be very different. And
that's right.
And when it's like an addiction. And if you have that addiction, you're going to go through those withdrawal symptoms, whether it's sugar, whether it's alcohol, whether it's drugs, whatever it might be. So as you
riding your bicycle, even, right? I mean,
So I think it's a lifestyle, and I think that's very important for folks to understand that it's not a fad. You know, we're not the grapefruit diet here. It's how you're living,
Right.
or the soup diet. What was that? Another one. But do you have practical tips and tricks for folks on things, again, that worked for you that might work for others?
You know, like the most extreme is always easiest for me. You know what I mean? It doesn't like it, it's hard for me to dibble and dabble and tap dance around things. I have to either do it or not do it, you know? And I find that if you like, oh, I'm going to buy these cupcakes, but I'm not going to eat them. Yes, you are. You know, it's like, I have to just not buy the cupcakes. And so that was huge for me, making sure that I set myself up for success by putting the things in my house, snacks in my drawer, a go bag with healthy snacks and these sorts. That is like so huge for me. And even now when I don't do it, I don't eat, or either I end up eating something that I'm not, you know, that I don't need to be eating.
And I also found that for me anyways, right? Some people say, don't tell people what you're doing, do it in private and show them. That doesn't work for me, because if I don't buy chips, because if I buy chips, I eat them. But if I go to somebody else's house and they have chips, well, if I don't tell them, you know what, you need to keep these away from me, because I will sit there and I'll eat the whole bag. I feel like I need that accountability. So if I say, you know what, if I start going after those chips, you better slap my hand.
That's right.
So sometimes you need that, and you know yourself, and don't lie to yourself, right? And make sure that people, if you need that help, then tell people what you're doing. I need your help.
Yeah.
I need to do this.
Yes, especially when it comes to stuff that you don't really want to give up. I mean, sugar, man, come on. You really don't want anybody to know that you're doing this, because if you force me to eat something that I really want to eat, that I'm supposed to not, you know, you twisted my arm kind of thing, you know?
Yeah.
And if you tell people ahead of time, people don't push it on you as much. So I agree with that 100%. Yeah.
Well, it's really important, folks, to make sure that you know your body. You know, just like you said, speak to the professionals, speak to the experts, get some of those tests done so that you know what your body is, maybe the allergies or the sensitivities, right? Some people have sensitivities to dairy or lactose, and you don't know it, right? Until you're like, every time I eat that, I get a little upset. So if you start knowing that stuff, when you get into your lifestyle change, you are better prepared. And then, as you said, set yourself up for success.
Absolutely.
Yes. So let's take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about intersectionality. But before we go, Andrea, tell folks how they can reach you.
So the quickest and easiest thing is just always sugarfreecoaching.com. I'm happy to say you can Google me. You can Google Sugar Free Coach, Andréa Raquel, you'll find me. I'm everywhere online at Sugar Free Coach, whatever your favorite socials are. Sugar Free Coach everywhere. No numbers after it, no underscores, nothing, just Sugar Free Coach.
And you also have a free gift for our listeners. Tell us about it.
I do. If you go to Amazon tonight, or you can go to sugarfreecoaching.com to get there easily, or my link tree, which is Sugar Free Coach as well, or any of the socials, go there at midnight. My time, of course, right? West Coast time. And you'll be able to get the ebook for free.
That is awesome. So midnight Pacific, folks.
Yes.
That's that would be 2 a.m. Central, 3 a.m. Eastern. By tomorrow, come on, go out in there and get that.
Yes. And it's called Ask Me Secrets, Living Sugar Free Revealed Ask Me Secrets. And I talk a little bit about my sugar journey, but you know, a lot more as well.
Wonderful. Well, we'll take a quick break and we will come right back. You are listening to Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills. Living it up, loving it up, letting it go. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills. Living it up, loving it up, letting it go. If you missed any portion of today's episode, you can catch it on getrootedradio.com. That's getrootedradio.com. Don't forget to subscribe online to receive the latest news, events, specials, and words of encouragement. Go to getrootedradio.com. Welcome back to my guest, Andréa Raquel. Andrea, thank you so much for being on the show with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I love chatting with you, Erica. I love your message.
Well, thank you. We hardly got off the phone the first time we were talking. We just kept talking. And I'm like, oh, she's going to fit right in. So in
Yes.
this segment, we're talking about intersectionality. I told you this is more than just living sugar-free, folks. It's a little bit of everything. So Andrea, what is intersectionality for our listeners?
So it may be something different for you than it is for me because that's the very nature of it, right? But basically, the gist of it is, we have all these labels and categories, which some people want to throw them out the door, but I submit that we need the labels, we need the categories for the sake of communication, right? We're in this matrix. We've got to have rhetoric and semantics. We've got to be able to articulate ourselves to one another so that we can communicate, right?
Yeah.
But each of us gets to define our own, right? Label, whatever our own thing is. And there may be some things we got to get off of us and some things we choose to embrace, things other people have put on us. And so it's a very gray area here, what we're talking. But for me, I'm a veteran. I'm also 50 years old, right? I'm also I don't say Black, y'all. I'm copper colored Indigenous American, okay? Which in and of itself is a whole, ooh, which label are you? Which, okay? I'm a woman, right? I'm also an Aspie. That means I'm autistic on a certain place on the spectrum of Asperger's. I got some more of them I can't think of, but a lot of us, we fit in a lot of different places on a lot of different spectrums, which actually makes us more alike than what we think. But we need to learn how to communicate that in a way where we're not just glossing over people's differences and saying, oh, we don't do labels. And, if someone has overcome a lot and embraced who they are, you don't want to say, oh, we don't do labels, but we want to respect whatever. If someone wants to be called they, them instead of he, him, or want to be called she, her, or whatever the thing is, that's just us taking time to get to know one another if we're going to engage and communicate with other humans, within this matrix.
And I think it's important. And I like how you say we don't, some people say, oh, we don't do labels, but we are all different. And that's what makes us so great. I mean, if everybody was the same, how boring of a world would this be? And it's not only that, even if you're identical, right? Like you've had different experiences. So, you could walk into a store and your experience, because I can walk in any store by myself and I can go walk around and look around. You make me go into like a Home Depot, a Lowe's, any of those home improvement stores, I start getting like claustrophobic and like anxiety attack because I don't know anything. I don't know anything about that. I don't even know where to go. But it's not because I had a bad experience. It's just because I don't know. Right. And so my perspective, whereas somebody else's perspective, it's like they're in Candyland and they love it.
Yes.
And I think, that's a very generic example.
It's a wonderful example because, we can be very generic about these things if we're open-minded.
Yes. Oh, yeah. And I think, one of the questions I really want is like, why is this important? And I think it's because we're different. We are all different. And even if you think you're the same, you grew up in the same house, you grew up in the same neighborhood, you've got the same parents, you've lived a different experience because everybody's perception is different. Everybody's experiences are different because we are individuals.
Mm-hmm. I have a big sister. She's only 3 years older than I am. We're practically twins, but we're great friends, she's my best friend in the whole world, but we are still very, very different. We don't see everything the same way. Our experiences are not the same. We haven't had the same traumas, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. She's not autistic, she's not a veteran. I'm not a parent. It's a lot. Being my big sister, that's a whole other conversation that I can't relate to,
And I know, but I think it's so important if we just understood that everybody's different and that's okay. And that actually will lead to new experiences, new communications. But how do we work through to be a better ally in whatever it is? Whatever that label is, whether it has to do with your sexuality, your race, your nationality, your social
Age.
learning, age. I mean, anything.
Yeah.
How do we become a better ally across the board?
It's like, just like in order to do our own healing and our own visioning and finding our own success, the same way that that is a very unique thing that no one else can prescribe for you, I think it's the same way when we go outward, right? Because to one person, being a veteran might be the most important thing to them. To another person, you knowing their LGBTQ status might be the most important thing to them. To someone else, their autism might be the most important thing. To someone else, their blackness is the most important thing to them. We don't even all have the same, like, passions and agendas and things that we think are important. So, like, the only way we're going to figure this stuff out is by talking to each other, and me and you hang out long enough for me to find out what your pet peeves are, right? Because it doesn't really matter that me and you are friends and you're an ally for, let's say, autism and, let's say, Black women, right? But the most important thing to me is veterans' rights. So you're always going on and on and on about Black Lives Mattering and, autism rights. And I'm sitting over here going, but does this lady even listening to me that my biggest concern is like how veterans are being treated? And so I think it's very important that we just continue to build these one-on-one experiences.
Yeah, it's relationship 101, the listen and the learn, right? Being open to hearing what the other person is saying, listening to how maybe your vocabulary, how your unknown biases, because
Yes.
we all have unknown biases. And I don't want to say it's not your fault. It's unknown. You don't realize.
But it's not your fault. Like, it's not your fault until somebody points it out to you and you don't care. It's not your fault.
Yep. And so I think it's that, listen. You don't listen to respond, listen to hear, and be able to be open about what you are receiving, what information you are receiving, and then, watch how you reply. I'm not saying always be politically correct, right? But I'm saying, how are you going to interact? Because that's how we become better listeners, better people, better allies. And you don't always have to agree with everybody. I mean, this time of year, right? It's election time of year. I don't agree with a lot of my friends' points of view or who they're going to vote for. That doesn't mean they're a bad person. I just don't agree with that. And you can choose to not agree and move forward.
Right.
So one of the things we're talking about during the next segment is really social media futures, but how does this all work? What does it mean to be a social entrepreneur kind of as we're going forward with intersectionality?
What you just said just made me think of something that's such a big thing for me, that we went through this period where a lot of people discovered introversion and they liked it. And those of us real introverts, who understand how important it is to be balanced, who work constantly on being ambiverts, are the ones having to explain to the extroverts, like, it's not okay to do that. Like, just because, like, when we're on our journey and we're discovering and growing and all this kind of stuff, even more you tend to kind of go in, and that's a good thing. That's a good thing. You have to embrace the alone time and be okay listening to your own thoughts and all that kind of stuff. But alienating people just because we're uncomfortable with their perspectives, that's a no-go. That's a no-go for our society as a whole. And it's a no-go for us as individuals, because I'm here to tell you that as an introvert, like who could perfectly be happy living in a mountain cave somewhere, that's not me shining my light. That's not me living my best life and being, walking in my purpose, right? So I can be by myself and I can garden and I can be off in La La Land or whatever, but I still have to come back, right? Wherever that space is that I need to do this. And so social media gives us the chance to do that. It really does in a more open way without forcing ourselves back into boxes that maybe are toxic and don't serve us well.
Yep. I want to get into more of that next segment. So let's take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about that social media futures. But before we go, Andrea, tell folks how they can reach you.
So if you go to my website on sugarfreecoaching.com, there's a lot of little funny tabs at the top that say all kind of stuff that aren't normal. Not like, it doesn't say contact us or contacts, but if you click on listens, there's all kind of things. You can sign up for a newsletter. You can become a subscriber. You can join my groups. Living Sugar-Free Sweethearts is what the name of all of my subscribers and members of my different groups are. There are lots of ways to get in touch, ask questions, and that sort of thing.
Awesome. I'm Erica Gifford Mills, and you are listening to Get Rooted Radio, living it up, loving it up, letting it go. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. We're back on Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills, living it up, loving it up, letting it go. Don't forget to visit getrootedradio.com to listen to a replay of this episode, sign up for helpful tips, and learn about upcoming events. That's getrootedradio.com. Welcome back to my guest, Andréa Raquel. Andrea, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you so much for having me, Erica.
So during the last segments, we've talked about sugar-free living sugar-free. We've talked about intersectionality, and now I want to get into social media futures and how do we tie the intersectionality with the social media futures?
So, first I want to remind everybody to get your free ebook. And even if you're catching the episode a little later, today, tomorrow, you guys, if you're listening to Erica's episode, make sure you go to the Amazon link and get Living Sugar-Free Revealed, Ask Me Secrets for free, get the free ebook. Okay, so I did a show a while back on Display with Sarah Previs, and that's what I called it. We called it Social Media Futures. And before that, the futurists, right? That's what they used to call them in the early days with social entrepreneurship. And it's like these people who kind of can see the social evolution of things kind of going in. And so my doctoral studies are in industrial organizational psychology. And when I was doing that, I kind of knew that social media was going to be this really awesome or potentially not awesome place where we could create these artificial social environments that could potentially be really good things for people who don't otherwise have opportunities like that. The sick and the shut in, people who financially don't have access to tools, all kinds of reasons that are people who before the internet didn't have access to this type of collaborative, whether it's fighting something on a country's behalf, right? A lot of social change has helped countries, causes, all kinds of different things, but also too mental health stuff, like people are getting online therapy. And so the not so good part about it, and I always refer to this movie, I recommend everybody watch it. It's a documentary called Social Dilemma by some of the creators of some of these social media platforms. And I don't say any of this to scare anybody because nothing has changed from a societal standpoint, right? Society always does what society is going to do. Humans always do what humans are going to do. We evolve, and we are evolving in a positive direction, right? So just because we have social media and it's more in our face now doesn't mean things have gotten worse for me, right? And so I encourage everyone to look at it for what it is. Watch this documentary, for example, understand the pitfalls and the dangers so that you can use it effectively, because it is a tool, just like the television, just like the radio, just like the newspaper, just like the telephone, and a lot more, more. The list is getting longer of things, that the internet and social media is an effective tool for. It does not mean that you have to be addicted, just like sugar. It doesn't mean you have to be caught up. And living sugar-free is really about breaking free from the bondage of everything, whatever it is, whether it's, we call hair crack, perming your hair. And if you want to perm your hair, perm it. Like, don't not perm your hair because other people are like, oh, you got to go natural. No, it's whatever you want, whatever you think is best for you, for your life. And so when it comes to social media, we have to keep that same energy, because if not, we're back in high school, right? Getting bullied by mean kids and caring about, whether we're popular or not. It's going to be the exact same cycle of social interaction if we allow it to.
Yes. And I think that's a great point, is that it's going inward again to figure out who you are, what makes you tick, but also what are your maybe flaws. And I say that, do you get wrapped up into social media? Do you start caring what everybody thinks? Or, oh my gosh, I only got 3 likes on this post. What are you subject in or are you getting too anxious because maybe do you have people who are bullying you, or you feel threatened, or you feel attacked? You need to look within to see, how am I going to use it? How is it going to benefit me? How's it going to affect my health and wellness? Not just your business. If you're an entrepreneur and you're wanting to use it, how does it affect yourself overall? And if you have a problem, like going on Pinterest and looking at stuff, then you need to make sure that maybe you don't do that. I mean, I have a problem. I had a problem with Pinterest for a while, and I'm like, nope, I deleted it. I don't even remember my password anymore, because I would just get sucked in looking at everything. So guess what? I don't do that.
Yes. Yes. And knowing is half the battle, isn't it? Like, knowing whatever your thing is, whatever the thing is that you're subject to get, too far off the deep end into, that you're subject to fall into, whatever trap, whatever thing is. Because, addiction is not about like the thing, right? We always demonize the thing.
Yep.
But most people who have been addicted will tell you, or if you have an addictive personality, then that it just gets replaced with something else. Mm-hmm. And that's not solving the issue. And I find it's so funny. One of the things that, and I, this is balance for me. This is part of my journey, learning this one thing about myself. And transmuting it into a positive thing and understanding, okay, where is this a superpower? And so it went from, oh, you're mean, nobody likes you, to, oh, Andréa has the ability to cut to the chase, get to the root of the matter and solve it. I mean, those two things, on the one hand, it's, oh, nobody likes you. And on the other hand, it's, you make people uncomfortable because you get to the bottom of the issue. And most people don't want to get to the bottom of the issue. So knowing whatever the thing is that you're dealing with is half the battle, because once you recognize it and realize it and get to the bottom of, okay, maybe the world hasn't accepted this thing about me, but maybe it really is a good thing. And I'm covering it up with this seeming addiction over here. But in reality, this is something that I need to lean into, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah. And I like how you say that. Sometimes it gets replaced with other things. I mean, and this is not against Biggest Loser by any means, but I remember when that show first kind of came on, and you saw the people who were overeating or, doing something, and then they just replaced that with overexercising. And it does. If you have that addictive personality, you replace one thing with another, right? Or how, if you, people who used to smoke, always doing something with their hands. Instead, now they're putting stuff in their mouth, right? They're eating. Right. It's you need to understand what's causing that. Then you can then address it. And it's not, replacing one negative thing with a positive thing isn't always the best if you're overdoing it. Right.
If you recognize that you're a stemmer, right? Many people on the spectrum stem. It's not a bad thing. If you know that you have a STEM and you get you a fidget spinner, right? Then you can give wonderful speeches. Whereas before you might have been rocking the podium, or eating something you shouldn't have been eating right before you went on stage because of this nervous thing because you didn't realize that you have a STEM. Yeah, it can be as simple as that sometimes.
And I think that's the future of the social media is understanding that we all have everything's benefits, right? Everything new, you're going to have your haters and you're going to have people who are like, no, this is the end of the world. It's, henny penny, chicken little, right? That's it's the end of the world. And you're going to have others that see only the positive. So you have to decide for yourself, how do I use this to be the best influencer in the best way possible?
Yes.
So that we can unite everybody in that more sustainable way.
Yes.
So
I love the way there's a video, they did a conference and there's a video on Guy or somewhere about it. It's on YouTube, I think now, and all over the place, but they called it Success 2.0. Michael Beckwith and the CEO of Zappos and Whole Foods, all these people got together. And Ken Wilber, he's the one who wrote about the integral method. And they said that our job is not to change the world so much as we used to say, right? While we're being the change, so much as it is to just usher in the next level of development and just be part of it and be part of the flow and, hold somebody's hand if we can and, just help somebody else along the way. And that's just, it's so much less pressure, I think, than what we've kind of traditionally looked at it as, it's just not our job to change everybody else, right? Well, it's not our job to change the world.
And I think that is being the change starts from within and can be small. It doesn't necessarily, like you said, you're not changing the world one step at a time, but it is that little things that help in your community that can eventually have that a ripple effect that will go out. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll end today's show by getting a little personal here. So this is Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills. Living it up, loving it up, letting it go. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills. Living it up, loving it up, letting it go. If you missed any of the information during the last segments, go to getrootedradio.com. That's getrootedradio.com to listen to the replay. Don't forget to subscribe, sign up for tips and special events and pricing for upcoming coaching sessions at getrootedradio.com. Welcome back to my guest, Andréa Raquel. Before we wrap up today's show, tell listeners how they can reach you and find out about your services and other ways they can interact and connect with you.
You can find me everywhere just to connect online and engage, watch my lives, Sugar-Free Coaching. Sugarfreecoaching.com is my website, but I'm Sugar-Free Coach everywhere. I'm available to speak at special events, group talks, give group talks and that sort of thing. But otherwise, you can catch me online and follow me, check out my blogs and that sort of thing.
Wonderful. And you also have a free gift for our listeners.
I do. You can get the ebook for free tonight at midnight. And even if you didn't catch it live and you're listening like tonight, tomorrow morning, I'm going to do it for a couple of days, guys. So starting tonight, as this airs live tonight at midnight, you can get the ebook for free.
Wonderful. And thank you so much. I know the listeners are going to love it. So take advantage of that, folks. So no, Andréa, you have had some amazing experiences in your life. I mean, through the military, through your ministry teachings, through everything, you are a very well-traveled person. How about that? And I love it.
Kinda.
But let's get a little personal. So tell me, you've had some recent things happen, and you're engaged.
Yeah, I seem like I'm well-traveled. I'm not all that well-traveled because it was all while I was young, right? And
But
so
experiences, travel,
isn't it funny
experiences,
though?
maybe not locations, but experiences.
Well, yes, exactly. And then when I was in the military, I did get to go places. Do you know what I mean? But I do have to, be transparent and admit the fact that I'm kind of a square and I'm kind of like I'm kind of a nerd, you guys, and I'm kind of a little scary when it comes to just up and going places by myself. I'm not gonna like just go to the movies by myself or just go out to dinner or lunch by myself. Or the reason I became the first female voice is because I didn't want to go to Bavaria, Germany by myself, which was my original assignment. So, they talked me into taking that one easier because even though I wanted to go, I think I kind of wanted an excuse not to go. And so it's a big deal for me to do, things like that. And so I got on a plane and I flew from Virginia to California about last year this time, to spend time with my new potential, I guess, significant other at the time. That was a year ago, though, and I'm still in California.
So it must have went well then, of course. So how did you guys meet that you jumped on a plane and went out? How did you meet?
We met on TikTok, believe it or not, Erica.
See, social media has a future. So there's a chance for me yet, folks. I guess I got to get on TikTok a little more.
Listen, y'all, I've been teaching people for 15 years how to stay safe on the internet. And I tried the dating apps, and they're a little creepy. I've always been open to meeting people over the internet. I've never been one of those people. I don't walk down the street and get mad when construction, workers whistle either. So this is probably, a similar thing. But on the internet, when people approach you or how they say slide into your DMs, I've never been offended by that, as my following started to grow, I really don't read them anymore. But he showed up on my live one day and was talking in the chat and telling me that I was going to be his wife. And y'all, I was like, okay, yeah, whatever. Guys do that all the time. I didn't think anything of it, but he wouldn't let it go. And so then I made him come on stage with me. Okay, come on, put up or shut up, in front of everybody. So we kind of evolved our relationship publicly, which was fun and different, and safe even. And I think that that's where we are. If you're an influencer and someone wants you to step away from your influence and do private things with them, they should present themselves in front of everyone, I think, if that's where they met you. Do you know what I mean? If you're a private person, I'm not saying that, but if you're in the public eye and we meet in the public eye, you shouldn't want to go behind closed doors all quick before anybody knows that that's what we're doing, because that seems kind of shady, But I absolutely think that you can find love over the internet. I think people can build loving, lasting relationships over the internet, personal and business. And you just never know. You never know where love will find you. It could be at the gas station or it could be on Facebook. And I think that everybody should be open to that.
Well, and it goes with being open. Almost goes back to the intersectionality, right? It's are you open to listen?
Mm-hmm.
Are you open to receiving? Are you going to have an open mind, an open heart? And then what are you going to do about it?
That's right.
It gets to are you going to be automatically offended if somebody says something to you, or like you said, slides into your DMs, or, I'll be honest, I was always kind of flattered when somebody whistled at me or if I walked down the street. If there's a difference between, because I'll be the first to, if I see a good looking guy, I'll be like, oh,
right.
I'm not going to go up there and I'm not going to go and grab him,
right,
or fondle
exactly,
him, or say maybe inappropriate words to him,
right?
But to appreciate, I know I wouldn't do that. I'm telling you, King, I wouldn't.
He's like, you better not.
I'll tear it apart. You should see what happens when somebody comes to the door. I never have to worry about a date coming to my house because they wouldn't make it through the front door. But it's important to see how that goes, right? And being open and setting your boundaries. Where I'm not saying that people shouldn't set appropriate boundaries and then see how that goes, right? And that goes for your personal life, your business, and what you're willing to do. So I think that's very important to do that.
And it's just like the diet. Everything's not good for everybody, right? When you first are trying to get free from candida, and that's what y'all look up. Don't look up sugar, look up candida, because that's the thing. If you're going to do the sugar-free thing, you want to be candida free, okay? But if you're going to try to get free from candida, like what types of sugars and all that kind of stuff you eat, it's relevant. How you're going to do it, how you're going to strategize your diet, all this stuff is relevant. Well, it's the same thing with other areas of your life. Like, you may have been hurt in an area or traumatized, so you protect yourself in this area and you set boundaries. There's nothing wrong with that, right? Because it's like you have to shift the pendulum. It's all the way this way. You got to shift it all the way this way before it can come back in the balance in the center. So some people have to go to the extreme of learning how to protect themselves and setting boundaries and putting up walls before they learn how to stop being a doormat, right? And then after you do that and you feel strong and comfortable and safe, then you can come back to that place of balance and center because you want to, right? And test the waters and be a little bit more open to different people.
And I think that's where we're going to end the show because we just looped it all the way back around, folks. I told you we had a lot to talk about today. And I want to thank you all for tuning in to Get Rooted Radio. If you missed any part of today's episode or you want to listen again, go to getrootedradio.com. That's getrootedradio.com for the podcast. And don't forget to tune in the first and third Monday of each month at 5 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Central, and 2 p.m. Pacific right here on Transformation Talk Radio. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much, Andrea, for your time. Have an amazing day, and I look forward to the next time on Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills. Living it up, loving it up, letting it go. Goodbye, everybody.
Thank you for listening to Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills. Living it up, loving it up, and letting it go. Visit getrootedradio.com if you've missed any part of this hit show, and tune in on transformationtalkradio.com to live fearlessly in your more and powerfully rooted in your unlimited yes. For more information and to work with Erica directly, visit getrootedradio.com. That's getrootedradio.com, and get ready to live it up, love it up, and let it go.